Hey guys, Nick Nanton here, and welcome back to One-on-One with Nick Nanton, where I try to share ideas and introduce you to some of my friends who are doing amazing work. And today I've got just one of those friends, Benjamin Hardy, PhD candidate, much smarter than me. I only have my JD, so you got another extra letter. And so I'm excited to talk to you, man. I met you through Joe Polish, Genius Network. You're actually here in my studio because I was interviewing for Joe's movie. So we're going to talk about your book, Willpower Doesn't Work, which is a great title, as you know. I know enough to know you're dangerous. I know you're one of the top read authors on Medium.com, and you write for, seems like, every publication because I see you post stuff. Before you get into this, how did you get so good at writing?
I've been journaling for over 10 years.
Okay.
So I served a mission, like a humanitarian mission for my church, and had a ton of experiences, was reading a lot of books, and it was during that experience that I read an article that triggered me that I needed to create a commitment to start writing, like in my journal, and just document my experiences. And then I just learned how to write in a stream of consciousness way. So I've been writing in a journal I have stacks, like seriously stacks of journals, and I write every single day, and that just taught me how to write in flow. And so then when I started transitioning to writing online, I learned how to just structure articles and then just write in the stream of consciousness way. And so I can write really fast, and there's like no conscious inhibition. It's all subconscious writing. So I just 10,000 hours of writing in my journal.
Wow. So you just turn it on and it just goes?
Yeah, I mean, I have to create the structure now. Like
Sure.
if I want to write an article online, like on Medium, I have to set up the structure, but once the structure and bones is in place, I can just crank out, like 5,000 to 10,000 words in like a couple hours.
Wow. And so do you still journal
Every day,
by
man.
hand?
Oh, yeah.
Do you find that it's important to do it by hand, a different connection than online, or?
Yeah, so like the reason why I still do it on my hand is because like from a brain perspective, when you do it with your hand, it's slow enough that your brain can be focused and mind wander at the same time, and that's how your brain can create new connections. And so while I'm writing, and I meditate and pray before I write, because my purpose is to get insights, and so while I'm writing, the handwriting is slow enough that through the process of writing, I go from topic to topic that I'm not expecting, and I'm getting insights that allow me to organize either goals or articles or books. So doing it with my hand is, I find, just a lot better for what its purpose is. Its purpose for me is getting insights.
That's funny. Yeah, I've been a songwriter for years. I write country music in Nashville, and some of the writers I write with are like, well, some of them write only on their iPhone, like a ton of them just only on their iPhone. But there's several people, and not just people over 50, like several young people who insist on writing by hand, which I always find interesting. So you're smarter than the rest of us. So I could ask you why.
I don't know why.
Tell me the importance for others. So if someone's watching this, obviously journaling is a big thing to you. I think a lot of people like me, if I'm going to write something, I have a finished product in mind. And I probably don't start a lot of times because I know the effort it takes to crank out a finished product. When you journal and when you encourage other people to journal, is it just straight stream of consciousness and you never know what you're going to get? Or how do you organize your thoughts for a journal?
Yes, I mean, I actually journal very strategically. So I'll journal first thing in the morning, and I'll just write, often I'll just write about, specifically I'll start thinking about what happened yesterday, what were some of the insights I got, what were some of the things I learned yesterday that were important that I just want to write about so that I can kind of put it deeper into my brain. But then I really actually organize my thinking, so I put today. And I start talking about and then I write bullets, what am I going to do today? And then I start thinking about, well, who do I need to reach out with? And so I do it when my brain's in a higher level place, first thing in the morning or in the evening. Your brain's actually more creative in the morning, more analytical at night. And so in the evening, actually, I find that when I write in my journal, I get a ton of ideas for articles. And then I can actually, the next morning, actually go through the creative side where my brain's just firing a lot faster. But usually what I do, honestly, in my journal, because I use it as a tool for manifesting goals or just overcoming blocks or getting insights, is I just frame honestly, every day I'll say today, this, so I'll write everything that's going on today. I'll write this week, everything that's going on this week, and then I'll usually write, in this case, since it's 2018 when we're talking, I'll write 2019. And almost every day I'll write the main things I want to happen in 2019. So I'm a huge believer in writing down your goals every single day, and then trying to create the emotional experience of what it would be like to have already achieved those goals. And so mostly it's an affirmation tool, honestly. But because I'm writing it down, I get a lot of insights along the way. It's not just me looking in the mirror. I get a lot of insights while I do it. So that's kind of how I organize. It's very much a goal tool for me.
That makes a lot of sense. That's much less daunting to me than trying to write prose about
No
my
prose.
day.
No, man. Most of it's bullets and pictures. It's pretty hideous. You know what I mean?
Love it. That's perfect. All right. So, and Willpower Doesn't Work, one of the first things you talk about is the myth of willpower and how it's really about your environment. Tell us about that.
Yeah, man. So the world we live in right now, obviously we're connected all the time. People are watching this probably on Facebook or on the internet. We got our smartphones on our bodies. We've got food that was processed in a plant, you know. Like basically the environment is so stimulating but so also like in our face. We have the whole world at our fingertips that willpower is basically depleted for most people right when they start their day. So basically the idea is that, you know, almost all behavior is subconscious, you know, and it's triggered by the environment. And the environment is so stimulating, so, you know, dopamine rich right now, and so addictive that most people are addicted to, you know, a million different things right now. They're addicted to technology, food, work, just being connected. And, you know, 80% of people, at least in the US, first thing they do is check their smartphone. You know, so immediately they're living reactively to their environment, and then they go through this subconscious loop system. And so the idea is that, especially in today's hyper-connected world, the environment beats willpower. You know, willpower depletes with use. Another word for willpower is decision fatigue. And, you know, in today's world, we actually make an infinite amount of decisions. And so Marshall Goldsmith, he had a really good phrase. He basically said, if you do not create and control your environment creates and controls you. And there's another actually really good book, I believe it's by Barry Schwartz. It's called The Paradox of Choice. He talks about how the more decisions you have to make, and this relates very much to willpower, the more decisions you have to make, the less quality those decisions become. And so most high-level people are strategically trying to avoid awareness of certain decisions. You know, like they don't want to do a lot of things. Like Steve Jobs, he just got a bunch of the same shirt, wore the same shirt every single day, because he didn't want to have to think about what he would wear that day. And so the idea of creating an environment is you create an environment that just almost eliminates all of the even good options, because good is the enemy of great. You know what I mean? And so you want to create an environment that takes you forward upstream rather than trying to like battle it. That's the idea.
So as a practical, it makes total sense. Practically, could you maybe give us an example of how you live that in your life? Like, so when you wake up, you don't check your phone first or your journal first, or...
Yeah.
Tell me.
Yeah, so I mean, big section in the book is obviously about morning routine, because how you start something generally influences momentum for the day. Obviously, highly recommend, and at this point, this is a pretty hashed out concept, but don't look at your phone, you know, in the first 90 minutes of your day. Execute the most important tasks, usually creative tasks. You know, don't check your email for the first several hours of your day. Don't do meetings, if you can, until afternoon. You know, like if you can give yourself 90 to like 180 minutes by yourself in the morning for orienting yourself towards the person you want to be, so that you can live intentional rather than being reactive to the environment, but that you can actually like impact your environment, that's huge. And obviously doing your most creative work. And one of the things I talk about in Willpower Doesn't Work, and there's a lot talked to about this as well, is the idea that like where you do certain things matters. You know, like if you want to do a really powerful meditation session, you should go to a highly, like an environment that's primed for that. So like when I wake up first thing in the morning, I don't stay at my house because there's too much stuff in my house. I get in my car, even if I drive across the street and just go to a parking lot, so I'm in my car away from all that noise, then I can meditate in a place, write in my journal in a place where I can actually get ahas. And so where you do things and how, you know, is very important to how you do them.
And that's part of making willpower relevant, right? You remove these decisions, these environments to where, I mean, you're setting yourself up for peak state all the time, basically. Right?
That's the goal, is live in a peak state. And obviously, peak state and flow state is very similar. And flow is an environmental signal. You know, so flow is something that's based on the situation. That's why in extreme sports, people are in flow so much, is because part of the environment is immediate feedback. You know, like if you're a snowboarder and you're doing a big jump, you know, you have to be totally in flow or else you're going to break your leg. And so the idea is set up situations so that you're in a peak state, so that you're in flow. So it's about setting up the situation and the environment.
How much of that has to do with, like, in the pro athlete example? It's you actually, everything you do is rehearsing for the game. How would we apply that maybe in a business life or our entrepreneurial life?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this is a little bit of an extreme example, but like when LeBron James went down to the Miami Heat, like they set the situation up. So basically they set the chips up in their favor before the game ever started, right? They won the game before they started playing. Anyone who's a basketball fan was pretty sure that the Miami Heat were going to grab a couple championships if LeBron was going to stay there. You know, when Kevin Durant went to the Warriors, he was pretty sure that they won the game before they ever started playing. And so, you know, you want to think about how can I win even the day tomorrow before I start playing? What are some things that I can eliminate? What are some things that I can, basically it's just thinking in terms of how do you set up the situation so that you can win? When it comes to collaborations or when it comes to hiring a team, you know, it's like one of the concepts that Kevin Harrington taught me was don't hire who you can afford, hire who can get the job done. You know, so that's like setting up the game before you play, you know, and it's just setting up the environment. You don't need to do an enormous amount of planning, but be strategic about what you're going to do, who you're going to do it with, when you're going to do it, just so that you can remove a lot of the friction of just being reactive.
Love it. And you talk about in the book as well how to outsource high performance. How do you do that?
Yeah, so basically motivation, even behavior, all these things like in a psychological level are already outsourced to the environment, meaning like when you drive, for example, when you drive, you get into the car and you just start going through a subconscious set of like behaviors, and then you drive, and most of your driving is subconscious anyway,
yes.
Right? And
I'm home. I didn't even know I left.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how almost all behavior is. And so when you set up high performance to your environment, basically you give motivation to the environment. So one of the things I talk about in there is obviously you engage in competition. You know, if you make that competition public, you know, that's even more. If you've got accountability, you know, if you're in a mastermind group where everyone's talking about their success, like basically it's just what are all of the things that you can stack to your environment that just make motivation happen rather than trying to psych yourself up? Like when you're around people who are positive, it's not hard to be positive. When you're around people who are motivated, it's not hard to be motivated. When you're engaged in a competition, and when that competition is public, and when there's high stakes, it's just like you've made competition irrelevant. You've set it up so that motivation just happens. Getting up at 5 in the morning isn't hard because you have to. It's just making motivation part of your life.
Got it. For somebody who's watching this that maybe isn't having a win streak right now, right? They're trying to turn that leaf, trying to get to the next thing. Obviously, starting to gain momentum is much harder than being in flow when you have momentum. What would you say one of the first 2 or 3 things you would tell somebody who's like trying to win?
Totally, absolutely. I mean, this is such an important question, and really, from my perspective, motivation and momentum are fickle. Motivation is something you have to earn every single day. And what's cool about motivation is that it's not actually what jumpstarts behavior. Motivation is a byproduct of positive behavior. So like if you wake up first thing in the morning and get even just one small win, that win will produce confidence, which also creates motivation and momentum. So like basically confidence, a lot of people think that confidence is what creates success, but it's actually successful wins that create confidence. And motivation is the same way. If you just perform one goal-oriented behavior, motivation kicks in. So literally, from my perspective, that's why morning routine is so important. Motivation is something you have to earn every single day, as is confidence. Like confidence is the byproduct of positive behavior. So if you wake up, and this is for anyone, if anyone has just like been on a lose streak for a long time, I know that if you wake up at a good time in the morning, right when you told yourself you would wake up, and if you just get a few wins first thing in the morning rather than jumping into your smartphone, then often the day will take care of itself. If you just give yourself some wins, but you can't have motivation, you can't have confidence, and you can't have momentum unless you're performing well. And so just do it every day. But you have to start at the beginning of the day. It's really hard even halfway through the day if you've lost the day to reverse that motivation and that momentum. So that's why I think how you start is very fundamental to how it keeps going. But the nice part is you can start over every day.
Love it. It's all about how you start. Willpower Doesn't Work. Benjamin Hardy, what's the best website they can find you at?
BenjaminHardy.com. You can check me out at, or just Google Benjamin Hardy. You can find my stuff on Medium.com.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much for joining me.
Yeah, brother.